Ladies and gentlemen, prepare yourselves for what is indisputably the most important cultural event in the history of the internet. Yes, it's the moment you've all been waiting for, the inaugural Tasteful Understated Nerd Rage 2015 Complaint of the Year Awards. In these awards, we pick one outstanding example of complaining from the multitude of complaints I made last year, both the ones on YouTube and the ones I shouted at random passersby on the street. I'm not one to stand on ceremony, so let's get right to it. These are this year's nominees, and we'll just skip to the end here. The winner is number 7, Gaming is Not Inclusive Enough. Yep, I'm going to talk about that now. This is the uncomfortable topic I promised you last month. I assume you're excited. I understand that bringing this up again is something like putting your hand on a hot stove twice. But I do it anyway, both because I consider it an important topic and because there's an angle to this issue that I rarely see covered. You see, I'm a straight cis white male with a lump of frozen coal where my heart should be. And as such, I care nothing for anyone's representation or comfort level. After all, for me, gaming is in a pretty good place. My opinions are valued, my tastes are catered to, my presence is considered normal and unremarkable, and I nearly always have a protagonist with which I can easily identify. And yet despite all that, even I, soulless husk and avatar of white privilege that I am, even I would like to see more equal representation in gaming. To explain why, I'd like to make use of one of my favorite devices, the jarring segue. My favorite game last year was The Witcher 3. Good story, memorable characters, Gwent, visually impressive, fun to play, Gwent, great music, expansive scope, and Gwent. CD Projekt did so many things so well that it's borderline unrealistic that a game like this even exists. Now at this point, given the subject matter, you may be expecting me to discuss how I wish that it had some people of color in it, or how I wish they had taken it easy on the cleavage and hooker corpses. Well, I do, but that's actually not what I want to discuss right at this moment. What I want to discuss is how tonally different this game is from the usual RPG fare. Superficially, it's another bog-standard medieval European setting, and yet it feels so different. It feels so... what's the word? I tried to find the word to describe it, and for a long time I couldn't. It took me a while to realize that that word was Polish. I believe that the qualities of The Witcher 3 that I liked so much, and found so novel, are inextricable from its Polishness. After all, this is a country that in living memory has experienced war on its own soil, and totalitarian politics of both the right and left-wing varieties. A country that's in a position to draw on Slavic folklore rather than the usual Western European fare. A country with its own literary touchstones, and even its own rough pop cultural equivalent of Tolkien. In short, I suspect that The Witcher 3 could not have come from any other country but Poland. Keep that in mind as I make a second jarring segue. My second favorite game last year was Bloodborne. I'm a sucker for lore, and for games with a well-cultivated mood, and this game was packed to its hideous Lovecraftian gills with lore and mood. The expertly tuned combat doesn't hurt either. FromSoft, of course, is a Japanese developer, and I don't think it's too much of a hard sell to say that the Japanese have always brought a unique sensibility to game development. Even games like Bloodborne or the Souls series, which are comparatively Western by Japanese standards, have a unique style that would not, and I believe could not, have come from a typical Western developer. So, last year, Poland brought us The Witcher 3 and Japan brought us Bloodborne. And neither game could have existed without their respective countries of origin and the cultures that inhabit them. This brings me to one of the two main points I want to make in this video. Diversity is an asset. This is the argument that I only rarely see made. Most appeals for more inclusivity in gaming tend to be built on the concept of fairness, that we should stop excluding marginalized groups because doing so is unfair to them. But remember, I have a lump of frozen coal where my heart should be, so I don't care about fairness. The argument I rarely see, or when I do, it's as an auxiliary to the fairness argument, is the benefit that comes from diversity. That by including underrepresented groups we're not doing them a favor so much as we are letting them do us one. When I look at all the people that have one way or another been elbowed out of gaming, I see something like an undiscovered country's worth of talent right here within our own borders. A country full of people who want to make and play games, and would be making and playing games in greater numbers if we didn't keep throwing obstacles in their path. I always wonder, over the years, how many FromSoft's worth of talent have we driven off by us constantly asking to see their tits? How many CD Projekts worth of creativity have we driven off with behavior that's racist or homophobic or transphobic or just generally abusive? The cost of unequal representation in games is not only unfairness but wasted potential. Seeing this happen is particularly frustrating for those of us whose tastes in gaming have changed over the years. I expect something similar happens to a lot of people. That as you move from your early 20s to your mid-20s to your late 20s to your very late 20s, you get less and less interested in the same old, same old. There's no shortage of games about stubbly, growly-voiced straight white guys shooting and stabbing things. And, credit where it's due, a lot of them have been good games. But you can only play so many before you start to crave something new. New character types, new perspectives, new ideas, and the best way to get them is to bring in new people. Which brings me to the second main point I wanted to make, that diversity must be cultivated. If this was the sort of thing that happened on its own, it would have happened by now. The fact that it hasn't is on us. Over the decades, every facet of gaming has accumulated a complex of bad habits. The development side, the publishing side, the marketing side, the reporting side, the community side, and the consumer side all now play host to a pile of obnoxious cruft getting in the way of the potential of the medium. And the thing about habits is, the longer they go uncorrected, the more ingrained they become. This generation of gaming takes its cues from the last one, and the next one will take its cues from this one. Absent a deliberate, self-conscious effort on our part to change, that pattern will continue. What are these habits? Well, that question is way beyond the scope of this video. I think I'll just refer you to the entire rest of the internet for that one. I'd like to stay as focused as I can on my preferred topic, which is, as always, me and what I want. So let's talk about that. You might have noticed that I'm a little out of my wheelhouse here. After all, this video is about neither an 18th century novel nor an obscure side quest in an 80-hour-long RPG. So why am I discussing it at all? Because I can no longer avoid it. I'm excited by the literary potential in gaming, but with each passing topic it gets harder and harder to see that potential without the entrenched homogeneity of the industry getting in the way. So many of the things that frustrate me in this business can be linked to its disproportionate whiteness and maleness. Too strict adherence to formula, a preoccupation with making everything vast and epic, and excessive reliance on violence as the primary driver of gameplay? Unequal representation is far from the only culprit behind these problems, but it is among the culprits to the point where they can't be discussed without also discussing where they came from. I'm sure I'm not the only person who's noticed that the output of traditional publishers is getting a little samey-samey. And to be honest, that's exactly what you would expect to happen. If the workforce is the same, then the aggregate product will be the same. And if the product is the same, the marketing strategy will be the same, so the target audience will be the same, so the community will be the same, so the hiring habits will be the same, so the workforce will be the same, and with each iteration the pattern gets more deeply ingrained. We shouldn't let this closed loop of sameness suffocate the potential of the medium. The way to break it is to listen and change, and the more of us the better. Question and answer section. Question 1. Is this going to be all you talk about now? No. To be honest, I'm not good enough at talking about this issue to do it full time, but I'm no longer going to deliberately avoid it either. If I want to fully express my opinions on gaming, I can't avoid the uncomfortable topics. To do so would, in my opinion, be a form of dishonesty. Question 2. What was your 2014 complaint of the year? I'm glad you asked. I was hoping to be able to fabricate a proud and storied tradition for my Complaint of the Year awards. So I'd like to take this opportunity to formally and retroactively award my 2014 Complaint of the Year to the inept management of large publishers. You earned it, fellas. Give yourselves a pat on the back. Question 3. Any more videos coming? Yes, I have 2 more in the works, one on the nature of RPGs and the other on the nature of artsy-fartsy games. That's it for now. Thanks for watching.